90%. That's not a guess. That's not motivational fluff someone made up to sell you a course. That is the percentage of people who quit right before the exact moment things were about to change. Science has studied this. Psychologists have measured this. And the answer is almost too painful to say out loud. Most people don't fail because they aren't talented. They don't fail because they aren't smart. They fail because they stop one step, 1 week, 1 month before the results were finally about to show up. If you've ever quit something, a gym routine, a business idea, a skill, a relationship with yourself, and wondered, was I just not good enough? Stay with me for the next 10 minutes. Because what you're about to hear is going to make you angry. Angry at how close you were. Angry at how simple the trap really is. And angry at how nobody taught you this before now. Let's talk about why 90% of people quit right before the finish line and how you make sure you're never one of them again. Fact 1. The brain is wired to quit exactly when progress is invisible. Here's something most people don't know. When you start any new skill, habit, or goal, your brain expects to see results almost immediately. This isn't weakness. It's biology. Your brain releases dopamine based on feedback, visible proof that what you're doing is working. The problem is, real growth doesn't work like that. Real growth is what scientists call a delayed reward system. You put in effort for days, sometimes weeks, and on the outside, nothing changes. No visible muscle. No extra money in the account. No new followers. Nothing. But underneath the surface, something is happening. Neural pathways are strengthening. Skills are compounding. Trust is building. It's just invisible for now. This is where most people break. Not because they're weak, but because they were never told that invisible progress is still progress. So they interpret silence as failure, and they quit in the exact window where the results were about to surface. Athletes call this the valley. Entrepreneurs call it the trough of disappointment. Psychologists just call it the adaptation phase. Whatever you call it, it is where 90% of dreams quietly die, unrecorded, unnoticed, and unmourned. Fact 2. Consistency feels like nothing is happening until suddenly, everything happens at once. There's a concept in physics that applies perfectly here. Compound growth doesn't look like a straight line. It looks flat, 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 and then it explodes upward. Think about ice. You can heat a block of ice from 0 degrees to 31 degrees Fahrenheit, and it still looks exactly the same. Frozen. Solid. Unmoving. Then you add 1 more degree, just 1, and suddenly it turns to water. The other 31 degrees weren't wasted. They were necessary. The change wasn't sudden. It was the release of everything that came before it. Most people quit at 30 degrees. They look at their effort, they look at their results, and they say, this isn't working, not realizing they were 1 degree away from a total transformation. This is why the people who make it are rarely the most talented in the room. They are the ones who kept showing up through the flat part. The boring part. The part where nobody was watching and nothing seemed to be changing. Success isn't a straight line reward system. It is a delayed, disguised, and often silent one, and understanding this single fact alone puts you ahead of 90% of people who never learned it. Fact 3. Quitting isn't a decision, it's a pattern your brain builds without your permission. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Every time you quit something, even something small, your brain doesn't just let it go. It stores the behavior. It builds what researchers call a quitting circuit. The more times you quit, the easier and more automatic quitting becomes the next time things get hard. This is why some people can chase a goal for years without stopping, while others give up on a diet after 4 days, a business after 2 months, or a relationship after the first real conflict. It's not always about the goal itself. It's about which circuit is stronger in the brain, the push-through circuit or the escape circuit. The good news? Circuits can be rebuilt. Every single time you choose to stay when your brain screams to quit, you are literally rewiring your tolerance for discomfort. You are making the next hard moment easier to survive. This is why people who succeed in one area of life often find it easier to succeed in others. They've built the muscle of staying, not just the outcome of one goal. Fact 4. Most people quit at the exact same statistical point, and it's earlier than you think. Researchers who study goal abandonment, things like New Year's resolutions, fitness programs, and business startups, have found a strange pattern. People don't quit randomly throughout the journey. They quit in predictable clusters. For fitness goals, most people quit between week 2 and week 6, right when initial motivation fades and visible results haven't shown up yet. For business ideas, most founders quit in the 18 to 30 month range, right when a business typically breaks even, but before it becomes profitable. For skills like languages or instruments, most people quit right after the beginner excitement wears off, but before the skill becomes second nature. In other words, there is a predictable quit zone for almost everything. And here's the brutal irony: the quit zone exists almost exactly where the results are about to begin. If you know this in advance, you gain something incredibly powerful: the ability to recognize the moment you're in. When you feel that specific urge to stop, that flatness, that nothing is working feeling, you can now say to yourself, this is the quit zone. This is exactly where everyone else gives up. I am not everyone else. Fact 5. The people who made it almost never tell you about the part where they almost quit. This is maybe the cruelest fact of all. Success stories are edited. When you watch an interview with someone who built a business, wrote a best-selling book, or became known in their field, you rarely hear about the 18 months where they questioned everything. You rarely hear about the version of them that sat on the floor of an empty apartment wondering if they had wasted years of their life. They don't lie about it on purpose. It's just that pain doesn't sell as well as triumph. So the story gets cut down to, I worked hard, and then it happened. That single sentence hides months, sometimes years, of exactly the doubt you are feeling right now. This creates a dangerous illusion for everyone watching. It looks like other people's paths were smooth, and yours is uniquely broken. It is not. Every single person who has ever built something worth having has stood exactly where you are standing, in the quiet, invisible, discouraging middle, wondering if they were the exception who wouldn't make it. Most of them almost quit. The only difference between them and the 90% is that they didn't. Closing, so here is the truth, laid out plainly. 90% of people give up before they ever see results, not because they lacked the ability, but because they misunderstood the process. They mistook invisible progress for no progress. They hit the flat part of the curve and assumed it was the whole curve. They let one bad week convince them the whole story was over. You don't have to be the 90%. The next time you feel that pull to quit, right when nothing seems to be working, recognize it for exactly what it is. Not proof that you should stop. Proof that you are exactly where everyone who ever made it once stood. Stay one more week. Stay one more month. Stay one more try. Because science already told you what happens next. If this hit you right where it needed to, share it with someone who's on the edge of giving up. And if you want more brutal truths that nobody teaches you, make sure you're subscribed, because episode 10 is coming, and it's going to hurt in the best way possible.